It was a perfect summer day in our small town in New York. Sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long, peaceful shadows on the ground. The garden was buzzing with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses. My cousin's birthday party had turned into a lively celebration, with everyone from our extended family showing up to share the joy. But no matter how happy the scene appeared, something felt off. Amid the noise, my gaze kept drifting toward Matthew, my cousin, who stood by himself near the wooden fence. His posture was still, almost statue-like, as he stared intently at the forest just beyond the yard. There was something about him, the way he was so focused, that felt wrong. The others were laughing and playing games, but Matthew seemed far removed, as though he wasn't even aware of our presence. His eyes, wide and unblinking, were locked on the distant trees as if they held some secret he was trying to understand. I walked over to him, trying to shake off the uncomfortable feeling in my chest. "Hey, Matthew. Everything okay?" I asked, forcing a smile. But he didn't even flinch, not at first. His attention never wavered from the trees. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he turned his head toward me. "It's just, something's there," he said quietly, his voice distant, almost uncertain. "I think it's watching us." I chuckled nervously, trying to brush it off. "It's just the woods, man. You're imagining things." But even as I said the words, a strange chill ran down my spine. There was something about the way he said it that made me second-guess myself. Was he imagining it, or was there something more? I tried to shake off the unease, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that something was not right. The laughter and joy of the party seemed distant now, and I couldn't help but wonder if I'd missed something in those woods. What was Matthew really looking at? As the evening wore on, I didn't think much of Matthew's strange behavior. But then, as the sun began to dip beneath the horizon, something changed. The party continued, music played, people danced, but Matthew was no longer part of it. Slowly, he had started to slip away from the group, moving further and further toward the edge of the property, then slipping into the woods without anyone noticing. It wasn't until much later, after the cake was served and the party began to wind down, that we realized Matthew was nowhere to be found. His absence became more apparent as the night deepened, the party quieting down to a strange silence. I wasn't the only one who felt the growing unease. The adults started asking where he was, their voices tinged with worry. We all rushed outside, calling his name, but the only sound was the wind rustling through the trees. I followed the trail into the woods. The trees seemed to close in around me, and the air felt thick, almost suffocating. It was quiet, too quiet. No chirping birds, no rustling of animals, just an oppressive silence that gripped my chest. The darkness stretched before me, swallowing everything whole. Then I found his shoe, lying abandoned on the forest floor. A dark pit formed in my stomach. Had he gone in there on his own, or had something pulled him in? I couldn't shake the feeling that something far worse than just a disappearance was unfolding before me. I kept searching, but it felt like the woods were playing tricks on me, every step deeper into the forest making the sense of urgency grow more intense. The trees seemed to bend and shift around me, their branches creaking and groaning as if they were alive, waiting. But there was no sign of Matthew. Only the eerie emptiness, a feeling I couldn't escape. And just when I thought I might turn back, I realized something: the woods weren't letting me leave. The sensation of being watched grew stronger with every moment. Years passed, but the memory of that day never left me. The mystery of Matthew's disappearance continued to gnaw at my mind, like a constant whisper in the back of my thoughts. But one day, while I was walking through those same woods, something happened that would change everything. I came across a small, broken shard of the birthday cup we'd all been drinking from that fateful day. It was lodged in the dirt, hidden among the fallen leaves as though it had been there for years. How could this be here? I wondered, the piece of glass glinting in the sunlight. It felt like the past had reached out to me, reminding me of something I'd long buried. The feeling of being watched came rushing back, stronger this time. I looked around, half expecting to see Matthew standing just beyond the trees. For a moment, I thought I saw him, his face barely visible, a faint silhouette among the branches. My heart raced. It's impossible. He's gone. He's been gone for years, I told myself. But then, something strange happened. Every time I looked back toward the woods, that presence was there again, like a shadow that would never fade. It wasn't just the memory of Matthew, it was him, or what had become of him. He was still out there, somewhere in those woods, watching. I couldn't explain it, but deep down, I knew that whatever Matthew had become, it was still out there. The forest wasn't just a place, it was a boundary between worlds, and Matthew had crossed it long ago. And now, it was calling me. Now, I'm older, and I've lived through the years of doubt and confusion. But I've never been able to shake the feeling that Matthew is still out there, somewhere in those woods, transformed into something beyond understanding. What happened to him that day? Was it the forest? Was it something darker? I don't know. But there are days when I can still hear the whisper of the trees, the rustling of the leaves, calling me back. I don't know if I'll ever find the answers. The truth is, maybe I don't want to know. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. But whatever happened to Matthew, whatever became of him, I've learned something important. We can never fully escape our past, no matter how much we try. And some things are best left alone, no matter how tempting it is to uncover them. So, let this be a reminder: if you ever find yourself walking into a forest, remember that not all things are meant to be found. Some stories are better left to the silence of the trees. The house seemed perfectly ordinary at first glance. The sun streamed through the windows, casting warm light over the neatly decorated living room. There were balloons and streamers hung everywhere, a big birthday cake with candles flickering on the table, and the distant hum of music playing softly in the background. Everyone was talking and laughing, as one might expect at a birthday celebration. But as the day wore on, something about it all felt off. Like there was a weight in the air, an unspoken tension that seemed to pull at the edges of the normalcy around us. I glanced around the room at the adults, all of them smiling, talking, exchanging pleasantries. But their smiles felt forced, like they were trying too hard to make things look perfect. And in the middle of it all, there was Carter, the birthday boy. He should have been grinning, enjoying the attention, the cake, the gifts. But he wasn't. His expression was distant, as if his mind was somewhere far away. Every few minutes, his eyes would drift toward the staircase and the closed door at the top of the landing. There was a glassy look in his eyes, a sort of blankness that unsettled me. I watched him for a while, trying to figure out what was going on in his head. Maybe he's just overwhelmed, I thought. But no, it was something more than that. There was an air of anxiety about him, an energy that didn't match the bright, festive atmosphere around us. Finally, I decided to ask. "Carter, you okay?" I said, trying to sound casual, but there was something in my voice that betrayed my concern. He didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed fixed on that door. He shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, just. I don't know. It's nothing." But his voice had a strange edge to it, quick, almost defensive. I looked at the door he kept staring at, then back at him. Something didn't sit right. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever he was hiding was linked to that room upstairs. Something about that door, always shut, always locked, gnawed at me. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. For just a moment, a figure standing behind the curtain of the upstairs window. It was faint, barely visible, but it was there, motionless. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly turned away, trying to pretend it was nothing. But the sense of being watched lingered in the pit of my stomach, growing heavier by the second. As the party continued around me, I couldn't get that window, that locked room, out of my mind. It felt like something was pulling me toward it, something I wasn't ready to confront. The sound of laughter, the clinking of glasses, all of it faded into the background. I needed to know what was going on. "Carter," I called softly, trying to catch his attention as he quietly retreated to the corner of the room again, glancing toward the stairs. "Who's in that room upstairs?" He froze. For a moment, I thought he hadn't heard me, but then he spoke, his voice tight. "The room's locked," he said quickly, too quickly. "It's locked from the outside." I frowned, my curiosity piqued. "What do you mean, it's locked from the outside? Why would it be locked? And why hasn't anyone said anything about it?" He visibly stiffened at the question, his eyes darting around nervously. It's nothing. Just forget about it." But I couldn't. I couldn't let it go. I stepped closer to him, my heart racing. "Carter, what's really going on? Why is there a locked room in your house? And who's in there?" His eyes flickered to the stairs, to that forbidden space above, before quickly looking away. "It's just forget it, okay? Just, don't worry about it." But the more I stood there, the more that damn room pulled at me. It wasn't like any other room in the house. Every other door was open, every other space filled with light and warmth. But that one? Always closed. Always locked. And Carter's reaction didn't make any sense. No explanation. No reason. Just fear. A fear I couldn't understand. Later, when I wandered through the hallways of the house, everything felt wrong. The air had turned cold, despite the warmth of the party still swirling in the rooms downstairs. The house seemed too quiet, almost unnervingly so. The doors, the walls, the windows, they all felt like they were watching me, waiting. And that room upstairs, it stood out more and more. Its locked door became an obsession, a constant reminder that someone was hidden away. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop wondering what was behind that door, what Carter was hiding from me. And so, late that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I found myself drawn upstairs. The moment my feet hit the top of the stairs, I felt an overwhelming chill in the air. The house was silent, but this silence was different. It was thick, pressing down on me, almost suffocating. I crept down the hallway, past the darkened rooms, my eyes fixed on the door at the end of the hall. When I reached it, I hesitated for a moment, my hand hovering over the cold brass of the doorknob. Then, as if pulled by an invisible force, I turned it. But before I could open the door, I heard a faint whisper. So quiet, I wasn't sure if it was real. I pressed my ear against the door. What was that? A voice. A soft, raspy whisper that sounded almost like a warning. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was desperate. And as I listened, my heart pounded in my chest. The voice seemed to know I was there. It was as if it was speaking directly to me. The sound died off, and I pulled away from the door, trembling. My hand shook as I stared at the locked surface, but something caught my eye, a faint mark on the wood. A scratch. Deep gouges, like someone had been trying to claw their way out. I stepped back, fear gripping me. Who was behind that door? What had happened in there? The next morning, Carter and his family were gone. No explanation. No goodbye. They had packed up and left without a word. The house, once filled with the sounds of laughter and celebration, was now eerily silent. I called, I asked, but no one could answer. It was as though they had vanished from the world without a trace. But the house didn't stay empty for long. I returned to it, time and time again, driven by the unanswered questions. What had happened to Carter? What was in that room? What had I heard? And why had they left without a word? I never did find out. The house eventually sold, and the new owners made no mention of the strange disappearance, the locked room, or the whispering voice. But those memories still haunt me. They haunt me every time I pass by that house, every time I look up at the upstairs window. The answers are still out there, hidden behind that door, just beyond reach. I don't know if I'll ever find out the truth, but I've learned something from all of this. Sometimes, there are things in this world that are better left uncovered. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed again. And some secrets are meant to remain buried. So, let this be my warning: if you ever find yourself standing in front of a locked door, remember, not every mystery is worth solving. Sometimes, it's better to leave things untouched, even if the answers are waiting on the other side.